Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. It is Tuesday, February 13th. Ian Cameron, and we are joined by, well, you know him and you love him, Matt Robinson, with us. He's going to be with us now moving forward, at least for the next little while anyway. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you will see Matt joining us here on the Ice Guys show 2 days a week. So it's a bit of a start of a new routine for our guy, and I know you're excited about it.
Yeah, super excited to get in the rhythm of 2 days a week. Obviously enjoy it every time I'm on, but also, like I've mentioned before, I usually have more success on the betting slate as well. So maybe it'll be good for my bank account as well.
Well, I'm hoping tonight's better for my bank account than last night, at least as far as the NHL is concerned. Look, this is the dog days of the NHL. There's no sugarcoating it. Coming out of the All-Star break, it's about as difficult a portion of the season to bet and handicap as there is. You've got teams that were, you had a good gauge of how teams were performing going into the break. You had your teams that were rolling. You had your teams that were struggling going into the break. Philadelphia is a perfect example, and we'll start the recap with them. They were playing as bad a brand of hockey as you could fucking ask for going into the break. Everything was bad for them. Defensive play was out of sorts. They had lost their way a bit there. They weren't getting saves as much. The offense had kind of dried up. Now, they were without Owen Tippett for a period of time as well. There's no question about that. But I think when you look at it, this Philadelphia team, it's a perfect example of how it can be tricky coming out of the All-Star break to handicap the NHL, because these teams that just look terrible going into the break, all of a sudden there's the break. They hit the reset button, and look at Philly. They just keep on winning now since the All-Star break. Another victory for them last night. It was actually one of the good results for me over the total and the team total. I ended up hopping on the Flyer team total last night as well against Karel Vejmelka, who, again, just is constantly in a rut right now, just can't get out of his own way, really struggling in net for the Coyotes for a extended period of time now. The Flyers, they got all kinds of contributions offensively. Tippett, I mentioned how he was injured. He's back. He scored. They got a goal from Jamie Drysdale on the blue line. Konechny continues to be awesome. Scott Laughton scores for them. Morgan Frost, I would say a guy that's been in Tort's doghouse in the past. That was probably one of his best games of the season for Philadelphia. He was outstanding. So credit to the Flyers, unblemished since the All-Star break, as they win once again last night by a score of 5-3 over the Arizona Coyotes. And a late puck line best bet cash for Brett on the show yesterday as well, with Flyers -1.5. So he went homer. He's his attachment to the Flyers is equivalent to Matt's attachment to the Dallas Stars. It's hard for him not to want to back his team in some way, but he was rewarded for doing so last night, Brett, with the Flyers on the puck line as they get it done against Arizona. The Rangers, 2-0 shutout against Calgary. I don't want to hear this nonsense that, 2-0 game, it must have been boring. It couldn't be further from the truth. It was a phenomenal hockey game. It was terrific goaltending, both sides. Shesterkin in a win was outstanding, but even in a loss, Jacob Markstrom was phenomenal. He made just a series of saves. You could have put probably 5 of his saves last night in like saves of the week, saves of the month video highlight reel. That's how good Markstrom was last night. So for him not to pick up the win, definitely kind of a tough luck loss there for Calgary. But credit to the Rangers. Here is another team that has used the All-Star break, to really galvanize themselves. The Rangers have played well since the break. They get another win, 2-0 last night. New Jersey with a 3-1 win against Seattle, a team that has not played great coming out of the break. They've dropped 2 straight out of the break against the Flyers and the Devils. New Jersey, a nice win for them, 3-1. Nico Dawes was very solid. Very interesting comments, by the way, from Jack Hughes in his post-game on-ice interview after the game, saying when you get a few saves, it makes life a lot easier. I think he was talking in generalities. I really do. But at the end of the day, it kind of makes me think, was he kind of throwing a little shot there, a little jab, shots fired at Vitek Vanacek with that comment? Saying, hey, Nico Dawes gave us some saves tonight. Maybe the other guy's not giving us those same saves. But I just found that pretty Pretty interesting. That was the quote he decided to go with last night, Mr. Hughes, following that 3-1 win for New Jersey. And then the other game last night, look, I was very surprised by this, but let's credit the Minnesota Wild. 5-3 over the Vegas Golden Knights, a team that's been dominating them over the years. They were very opportunistic. I thought Vegas got themselves into penalty trouble early in that game, and Minnesota capitalized, and it seemed like Vegas never really found their footing from that point on. And Minnesota capitalized, a couple of mistakes with the puck. Aiden Hill, not one of his better games, and put it all together in a really nice road win for the Minnesota Wild. They're 5 points out. I know our resident fan, Terry Edelman, who loves this Wild, was all saying, what a statement win. Well, calm down with the statement win, okay? Statement win was Minnesota Timberwolves last night, because they're actually going to be in the playoffs. They're actually going to be in, a position where they're going to be in the mix to win the Western Conference with, battling the likes of the Nuggets and the Clippers and a bunch of really good teams. Thunder, don't forget about them. Minnesota may not even make the playoffs still. So this notion that was some kind of big statement win, I don't get it. Was it a good win? Yes. Was it an impressive win? Yes. But statement win, you got to make the playoffs first for it to be a statement win. They may not even still make the playoffs. It was a very good win, a needed win, an impressive win for sure, but statement win, come on. We can't go that far with it as far as I'm concerned. You got to make the playoffs still, and you got a lot of teams you got to leapfrog still if you're the Minnesota Wild to get into that discussion as far as the playoffs go. I will say this in a positive for Minnesota. This Brock Faber kid is something else. I mean, another assist last night. We talked about it on the show. It's just like automatic right now that his assist props keep on cashing game in and game out. Another great game from him. They got something special there. And what is he tied? Connor Bedard now for points, rookie points as a rookie in the NHL this season. Now, granted, Bedard's been out for a long period of time, and Bedard, by the way, could be back next week. He's back on the ice again for Chicago, but nevertheless, Brock Faber, outstanding, and he's really been someone that's given this Minnesota team a little bit of a jolt, a little bit of a spark with his play from the blue line. Maddie, what do you got? Any thoughts on the 4 games last night?
Yeah, to be honest, I know you mentioned it, but I also had a pretty tough day. Obviously had a horrible Saturday last week, as I mentioned on the bedcast. It's been a slow week, but for whatever reason, one of my main betting avenues, it kind of resets on Tuesdays. So I'm thinking it's a new slate. I'm on the show. I feel good about things moving into tomorrow. I was hoping for some early goals, which didn't happen. I had the first period over in that Devils Seattle game. I had the actual over in Rangers Flames game, which obviously missed. My only redeeming play of the night was that I panic mode at the end of the night and took the over 5.5 on the Wild Vegas game, which obviously hit pretty easy. So that, saved me a little bit there at the end. But yeah, tough. As you mentioned, coming off the break, it seems like teams are playing different. Maybe there's a few less power plays happening. Definitely haven't seen the goals the last few days and really since the break ended. So hopefully that turns around tonight. Tuesdays have traditionally been solid goal nights, similar to Thursday and Saturday, just with big slates. So hopefully we get some good luck tonight.
Yeah, it's a great card, 11 games. There's certainly good opportunities, and you just hope good results follow it. I'm still up on the season. I'm profitable in the NHL, but I'm telling you what, it's getting to the point now where, we got to put some good days together because that profit pile is dwindling a little bit. Still up on the season, but yeah, we need to put some good runs together. Basketball's been phenomenal for me. It's actually been even stronger. It's outperforming NHL right now, full disclosure for me right now. NBA's been awesome. College basketball, man, like 38 units already in CBB for me. Unbelievable season. Now, a lot of that was early. Like I was just November, December, early in the season when I don't think the odds makers have as good a feel for the teams. I was really, really locked in at that time. It's been more up and down lately, but still, it's been a really, really good season. Yeah, I mean, we're all in that boat right now. We're just grinding through. We're trying to muddle through, this tricky portion of the NHL season right now, post All-Star break. But the good news is I legitimately do like this card. I think there's a lot of good opportunities here in this one. No, we'll never transform into the hardwood guys, Ice-X. Fuck that. That's not happening. Hockey and football are my first loves. Yeah, hockey and football are my first loves. Hey, we're talking to someone from Texas where 90% of that state is more interested in basketball and football than hockey, but not this guy. So I know he agrees with me there.
Facts. Yeah. Especially like through high school sports, like football it's the same as Minnesota high school hockey is the
Oh, yeah.
equivalent of Texas
Friday night
football.
Texas high school football. I mean, that's like places are packed, right? Every Friday night.
Oh yeah. And especially it's even wilder in the smaller towns. Like the whole town shuts down. Where I'm from in Plano, there's a lot going on there. You're close to Dallas, there's professional sports, all this stuff. So once you're out of high school, you kind of move on. But some of those small towns, you can be in your 40s, that's what you do on Friday nights is, you go to the diner and then you go to the football game. So definitely pretty wild down there.
Yeah, no question about it. But like I said, we've got a great slate coming up here on this Tuesday. So we're going to get into it. It's 11 games deep, and we will begin with the Colorado Avalanche taking on the Washington Capitals. This road trip from hell continues and I say that because they haven't been any good on this road trip so far. The Avalanche minus 190, road favorites, 6 the total here in this game. Look, after what I've seen from the Avs the last few games, especially after what I saw against Florida, I'm like, man, we may have to just leave this team alone until they get back home, before we're ready to, maybe trust them or expect an A-level performance from this team. And they do still have one more game on this road trip. After this, they go to Tampa Bay on Thursday night to face the Lightning. And then finally they get back home to Ball Arena in Denver to host Arizona on Sunday night. But it has been a very difficult road trip. They have played 4 games out of the break, 0-4 in those games. Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, Panthers, and a 4-0 shutout as well to the loss to the Panthers in that game. But when I look at this situation here, is Colorado really going to go 0-5 on this road trip? And are they really going to lose to a team that I think is finally hitting the shits as I thought they would? The Washington Capitals, a team that nobody thought much of anything going into this season. And Washington greatly outperformed and greatly overachieved, for a large part between October and I would say mid-January. But since mid-January, this team has just won 1 hockey game in their last 8, 1-7 for this Capitals team in their last 8 games. So, you look at this situation for Washington and, man, if there's ever, even for a team that has got this 12-16 road record, like the Avalanche do, if this is a spot you got to get the job done. You are better than this Washington team. There's no question about that. But again, their road issues concern me. The power play this is a team that's loaded up front. We know that. They should have no problem at least getting a goal on most nights with the man advantage, or at least every couple of games. But to go 4 straight games without a power play goal, 0 for 13 during that span, when does that ever happen to the Colorado Avalanche? So it's been bizarre to see that happening from them here in the last few games. But, this Washington, I'll say this about Washington, though. The effort was good against Vancouver. I thought they were a lot better against Vancouver. Boston just gift wrapped that game for Washington. They didn't even show up to play that game against the Capitals on Saturday. I thought, Vancouver was game. Vancouver was locked in. They lost a tough one to Detroit the game before, and Washington stuck with them. So we'll give them credit for that. But, I look at this going into this game. I don't want to lay this price with Colorado. I'm not laying this price with Colorado, but I do like their team total. I think that's the best way to approach this, where we could see one of those games where they score 4 and they win 4-3 or 4-2, or maybe they lose 5-4. Because, the crazy thing about Colorado is, they've also struggled at times defensively on this road trip. They've given up 4 or more in the last 3 games to the Panthers, Canes, and the Devils. They've given up 14 goals in the last 3 games. It's not exactly what you want to see, but you look at series history, they've won 3 straight over Washington. Last year when they went to DC, they shut out this team and beat them 4-0. They beat them in Colorado 3-2 last year as well. And then just a few weeks ago in Denver, it was a 6-2 win for the Avalanche in that game. So for me, I'm just keeping it simple here. I lean over full game, but I'm keeping it simple here. Majority of my financial stance here is going to be on the Avs team total over 3.5 at a really good price actually here. Even money, you can even get a plus money with that over 3.5 at most books right now. Maddie, what do you think here? Colorado, Washington.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me because I'm definitely not laying minus 190 on the Avs right now. They look horrible. Washington looks like they're taking a skid. You can always throw a prop on Ovi. He looks like he's heating up a little bit, which is good to see. If you're following that record. But yeah, I mean, I think if anything, I lean over here, which maybe makes me, first period over. I typically like to split that up. I don't hate the Avs team total over. It's just I don't know if this is going to be a 5-2 Caps game, 5-2 Avs game. So I may just take the over and just hope the first period over hits because that sets it up, nicely for the full game over. But yeah, I just since the All-Star break, I can't really trust the Avs, especially on the road. And I'm not gonna, the price isn't good enough for me to take the Caps to beat the Avs. Knowing on paper that they're definitely an inferior team in my opinion. So yeah, maybe just the over in this game at 6. It looks like you can get it, minus 110 somewhere in that range. So pretty good pay. And obviously being the 6, you've always got the chance for a push. So it's no harm, no foul.
This is a head scratcher, by the way, with Carberry going with Lindgren. Lindgren is awful right now. Lindgren has not played well. He's finally reverted back to a borderline AHL goaltender, Charlie Lindgren. And you got Darcy Kemper, who, Colorado said to him, you know what, we'll move on from you. You didn't want to put Kemper in there against his old team here. That's a little peculiar to me. This goaltending decision here by the Capitals tonight to go with a struggling, and I mean struggling, Charlie Lindgren. Like, it's been quite the fall from grace for him. It's one of the actually very impressive stories of the early season. When Washington was having that unexpected start to the season, a lot of it was, Charlie Lindgren playing great, but he has not been that same goalie. Yeah, he was in net for that shutout against Boston. A broomstick, all right, could have gotten a shutout in net against that Boston team the other night. That's how bad the Boston Bruins were against Washington Saturday afternoon. So let's calm down with, Lindgren's back. He got a shutout. Bullshit. That was Boston just didn't even show up to play a hockey game on Saturday afternoon. Let's see if he can do it tonight against what you would think coming off of a shutout loss would be, a Colorado team that's pretty pissed off and wanting to salvage at least one. And usually historically with my handicapping stance with these road trips, when a team hasn't won on the road trip and they're getting toward the end of that road trip, we do see the sense of urgency rise. It's not like they're looking to say, punt the rest of the road trip today and tonight against Washington and then Tampa on Thursday and go back home. So we'll see how it goes here for them. But, Washington's struggling right now. They're there for the taking. We'll see if Colorado can step up to the plate. All right, Los Angeles and Buffalo. We've got the Kings minus 135 road favorites, 6 the total here in this game. As far as Buffalo is concerned, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen confirmed as their starting goaltender. A Sabres team that trying to put a streak together, but I don't know if this team's got it in them to do that with the inconsistency we've seen all year from them. Their first 2 games out of the break, they lose to Maddie's Dallas Stars 2-1. Ottinger, though, saved the day, if you remember, in that game against the Stars there. I mean, Buffalo outplayed the Stars, but it ended up being a situation where Ottinger was just immense in that game. And then, of course, they lose to St. Louis in the ABC Saturday game, 3-1 at home against the Blues. The injuries, there's some key ones here. Samuelson on the blue line, Jack Quinn still out, and now Owen Power also out for the Buffalo Sabres as well, week to week with a hand injury. So that's not going to make matters any easier right now for the Sabres. Meanwhile, we've got LA, and we wanted to see that enthusiasm. We wanted to see that coach bump. We wanted to see how this team came out in the first game with Jim Hiller behind the bench against the red-hot Edmonton Oilers, and they played one hell of a game. They did. I mean, they looked like the old Kings again. They generated enough offensively. They got back to their staunch team defense, and they got a good performance in net from Riddick. Not just good, he was really good, David Riddick, in that win against the Edmonton Oilers the other night. So you would think David Riddick's back in tonight. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but you would expect him to get the first game of this road trip here tonight for the Kings. And this is a big road trip for them. They're right on the fringe of the playoffs. They got to go through after Buffalo tonight. They got to play at New Jersey, and with The Devils playing, a little bit better lately, and they have Jack Hughes back. That won't be easy. Then you got at Boston's not going to be easy. At Pittsburgh, who are battling for their playoff lives. So this is going to be a very tricky road trip for LA because you're playing teams with a lot at stake and a lot on the line, and good teams in a lot of aspects. But LA needs to put a win streak together. I'm on the Kings here, minus 135 in this game. I just feel like, I said if they beat Edmonton, we're going to look to maybe get on this and get behind this LA Kings team game in and game out. See if they can rip off 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 6 wins in a row with the new coach here, Jim Hiller, because I liked a lot of LA's game the other night. I really do. I thought they played extremely well against the Edmonton Oilers, by far the best they have looked as a team in weeks. And look, another little element to this game here tonight, LA had a sickening, despicable loss to this very Buffalo Sabres team at home, January 24th, when they were in the throes of their struggles and their downfall and the free fall, if you will, in the waning days with Todd McClellan, where they had a 3-1 lead, I believe, in that game against Buffalo, and they lost 5-3 at home. It was just a few weeks ago. So it's actually a little revenge spot here for the LA Kings as well. Revenge spot for the better team. I think this team has the ability to get on a little bit of a roll now with the coaching change. That was as good a performance as I've seen in weeks from them with LA against Edmonton. So I'll ride them here, especially with the price being reasonable enough. Minus 150 is my cutoff point. So I'll take them minus 135 here. And I'll also sprinkle a little on the Kings team total over as well. I have more on the money line here because with the Kings, they could win 4-1, 4-2. They could also win 2-1, 3-1 in this game as well with, their ability to defend when they're on their game. So that's why with my percentage here, I'm probably going to go 75-25 split. 75 money line, 25 on that Kings team total, which is over 3.5 at plus 124. Matt, what do you think here, Kings Sabres?
Yeah, this is almost a pass game for me. I may throw a little bit on the Kings because I do agree. I think they, win this game. But with Buffalo, it's just so inconsistent. They're in a 7-3 game. They're in a tight 2-1 game with Dallas. Their goalie plays great. And then, they lose 7-3 or win 7-3. It's just kind of all over the map. The Kings obviously have been playing better as of late, which is good to finally see they couldn't really play any worse than they were playing before the break. But yeah, I don't hate the over here at 6, to be honest. I think there's, maybe a situation where I'd look at it live and see if I could get it maybe at 5.5, 5 or 10 minutes into the game. But yeah, I'll probably pass on majority of this game. I would definitely lean LA. If you are looking at a side, I think the Kings get the dub. But yeah, probably a pass for me.
God damn it. There we go. I'm going to rock with PLD again for goal. It was one of the great things about Saturday was cashing that goal prop with Pierre-Luc Dubois. Looked a little revitalized, I'm telling you that right now with that coaching change the first game. Now, consistency's always been his problem all season long, but we cashed a big PLD goal prop against Edmonton. I'll come back to it. Fiala is a good option. I know someone mentioned that in the chat as well. I could definitely see that in this game for LA as far as a goal prop is concerned. And Quentin Byfield as well. I could see him being rejuvenated here a little bit. And I noticed that against Edmonton. I also want to mention, even though I like the Avs team total in the game against Washington, I forgot to mention, I'm going to ride the wave with Ovechkin there. Now he's on this goal, heater now. And the prices are still close to plus 200 at some spots for him to score. So definitely I would take a look in that direction as far as that's concerned. All right, Columbus and Ottawa. We've got the Sens minus 180. How about this price? Senators getting some respect here. Minus 180 home favorites, 7 being the total here in this game. You got an Ottawa team coming off the rivalry, the Battle of Ontario, and we know what happened at the end of that game with the Riley cross-check to the side of the head of Ridley Gregg after the slap shot empty net goal that he scored for the Ottawa Senators in that game. Obviously, an emotional ending to that game. A big win for the Senators. There is a little letdown factor potential here for Ottawa coming off of a game like that. But I don't know if I trust Columbus to step up and take advantage of it. This is a struggling team. Danil Tarasov in net hasn't been all that effective. He's starting tonight. You've got Shinikov out, which is a huge loss. Adam Fantilli, the rookie's had a good season. He's out as well, of course, for the Blue Jackets right now. So that's the tricky part in this game. I really don't know if I want much to do with it. I'd lean maybe team total over on Ottawa. Maybe a first period, both teams to score, as Raymond says in the chat. I think that's good. I think that is worth a look. Both teams to score first period. I like that. I could see Ottawa being a little dopey defensively for early part of this game, coming off the big Toronto win. That was an emotional, bubbling cauldron, at the end of that game. And we know with Columbus, trust them early, don't trust them late. Their third period goal differential stinks. It's absolutely abysmal. Their third periods all season long. So if you're going to trust Columbus to do anything, trust them early. So maybe they can pounce on Ottawa, get in on the board in the first 20 minutes. Certainly Ottawa's capable of doing that against this Columbus defense and their goaltending of Tarasov, which is very suspect. I mean, I'll bring up the exact numbers on Tarasov. They're not good. 3.79 goals against, 881 save percentage. By the way, Anton Forsberg making the start here tonight for the Ottawa Senators. Groin injury. He's been out for a long time. Hasn't played since January 11th, so over a month ago. We'll see how he fares. His numbers are okay, but they're not great. 3.35 goals against, 889 save percentage, but I'm not betting overs at 7. You guys know that. We'll wait for something live, but I will definitely be interested in a live over and a live maybe first period over too, because even the first period over is too damn pricey right now. That's the problem. And so you're going to have to wait for something a little bit better in game right now as far as both of those are, as far as the first period over and the full game over. Like first period over is minus 180. I'm not laying that price, and I'm definitely not taking over 7. So this is going to be live betting, Alex B. Smith approach, if you will, for me with the first period and or full game over. I do like both teams to score in this game, and maybe I get involved, but maybe the Sens team total over, but that's it. I definitely don't want to lay minus 180 with Ottawa coming off the spot with them, with that Toronto game. But they're playing well. 3 wins in a row. You can tell now that they've been on this extended homestand, they're starting to get some traction, starting to get some footing. And even though the playoffs are a pipe dream still for this Ottawa team, don't tell them that. They're probably going to have the effort of a team that's in a playoff race, even though they're still way out of it. That's the sense I'm getting right now from the Senators. They're definitely showing signs of improvement, which I figured at some point they would here under Jacques Martin, who, of course, as we know, is a very experienced head coach. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Columbus, Ottawa.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I feel pretty confident in Ottawa. I feel confident there's going to be goals, but there's just no real value in the pregame bets. I'm not going to lay 180 on it. Coming off that game, there's all this media going on about Riley Gregg, and there's a lot of distractions. So I could totally see Columbus, getting this win on the road. But yeah, just not a ton of value. I think I'm also going to take the Alex B. Smith approach and try and live this over. Maybe there's no goals in the first 10, 12 minutes. You get it down to 6, maybe even 5.5. I think there's a ton of value in that, but not going to lay at 7. As you mentioned, the first period over is almost minus 200, so definitely not worth taking that on the off chance that it is a slow start. So maybe a live over here, but yeah, nothing really on the sides, just given the value. I think Ottawa takes care of business, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see how it goes here, but it looks like for props, there's a bunch. I like Voronkov. Good luck. I think Voronkov's one of those guys going to have to step up even more. Not only was he in decent form as it is, but I think when you look at Voronkov, he's going to have to even do more offensively with the Fantilli and Shinikov injuries right now for the Jackets. So I like that look. Shane Pinto, I'm going back to the well with him. Once again for the Ottawa Senators. Goals in back-to-back games against the Red Wings and the Leafs. How about 5 points in the last 2 games for the Rambler Gambler known as Shane Pinto? 5 points in the last 2 games. Maybe an over 1.5 points with Pinto. Why not? Multi-point games in 2 straight for him at this point in time. So, Pinto is where it's at right now. He's been heating up big time for the Ottawa Senators. I think my favorite bet in this game would be that first period, both teams to score. I really think we got a chance to see 1-1. Remember, this is going to be the first period of game action for Anton Forsberg in net for Ottawa in over a month. Is he really going to put up a brick wall, be on top of his game, be razor sharp, right on top of his game at the absolute best early in the game. I'm not so sure. Columbus scores goals early, and their best play has always been first period, second period, and they get worse, as the game goes on. So that first period, both teams to score, I do like that quite a bit. All right, Anaheim and Montreal. We've got Montreal minus 115, home favorites in this game, 6.5 being the total. This is a tricky one. I mean, Anaheim, how many more times does Anaheim have to, hurt me before I learn my lesson? Well, I was going to bet any team against Edmonton in that spot. Edmonton coming off the history snapping loss. History snapping loss at the potential streak there that they were going for. They were looking for history. Anaheim right now, if you're going to bet the Ducks, because this defense and goaltending of theirs is a fucking crapshoot right now. You don't know what you're going to get night in and night out from it. And right now, it looks like John Gibson is day-to-day, so there's a potential we see Lukas Dostal in net here tonight. Lower body injury right now for Gibson. He had to leave the Edmonton game because of that. Dostal had to finish. Dostal's expected, but it's not confirmed. It's going to be Caden Primo getting the nod tonight for the Montreal Canadiens in this game. He's another one where you never know what you're going to get one game to the next here with Caden Primo. Because he gave up 5 goals the last start he made at Ottawa. He gave up 2 goals after that, and pretty solid in that performance as well against the Flyers. I think they lost in a shootout, but he played well in that game. And then he gives up 4 before that against Carolina. So just very up and down, as evidenced by his stats, 4 and 5. 3.36 goals against average and an .899 save percentage this season for Caden Primo. So just goes right in line with it as far as, his up and down nature. I think I would lean over in this game. You got 2 bad teams, 2 teams way out of the race, way out of the playoffs. Neither team can really be trusted defensively at the moment on a consistent basis. Obviously, with the Montreal Canadiens, they just gave up a 7-spot Super Bowl Sunday afternoon on home ice to the St. Louis Blues. They have given up pretty consistently 3 or more goals. In fact, they have given up 3 or more goals to the opponent here, 7 of their last 8 games. That's not what you want to see. Anaheim, meanwhile, they've given up 5 goals at least in half of their last 10 games, and that's something you don't want to see either. 4-3 in Anaheim earlier this season when these teams played in Anaheim. Last year in Montreal, we saw 5-2 Ducks. That went over. 4 of the last 5 games have gone over the total with these 2 teams. So this is probably a both teams to score first period / over 6.5 kind of game for me. Maybe first period over 2, but you do have to lay a price with that. But both teams to score, I think, is live again here. First period, over 6.5 as well. I don't want to trust either side. I don't want to trust Anaheim, and they're banged up too. Let's not forget that. Killorn's on IR. Minchikov's on IR. Zegras is back on IR. Montreal's got their injuries too with Doc and Brendan Gallagher, which is suspension, and Dvorak on IR. Harvey Pinard just went on IR. So to me, it would be, you don't trust either team to keep it out. So you look at overs. You don't look at a side because I think this is just too much variance here. Could go either way. Hard to trust either team. I will say this, situationally, I would probably lean Montreal because that was such an embarrassment for them Sunday against St. Louis, 7-2 loss to the Blues. Marty St. Louis read them the riot act after that game, so you would expect probably a good response from them, but they are really depleted. They are really, really a tough team to lay a price with. Maybe as a dog, yeah, but not as a favorite. Am I interested in laying a price with Montreal right now, even if they're amped up following a pretty shoddy performance against St. Louis? What do you think here in this one, Matt? Anaheim, Montreal. Oh, you're muted.
Whoops.
That's all right. Happened many times.
It's like the old beginning of work from home days where every coworker was on mute on Zoom calls and no one could figure it out. But yeah, no, I agree with you here on the sides. As you get to this point in the season, me personally, I never like taking sides on games of 2 teams that are super out of it. Kind of dwindling. Are they going to make the playoffs? Probably not. Things like that. They play into, the game and the pace of play. I do like the over here because both teams do tend to give up a lot of goals. And one thing that, maybe doesn't get thought about that much, and it's a little early to be thinking about it, being as it's just February. But these guys do have a lot of incentive bonuses in their contracts, goals, assist points, different things like that. And, if you're on the Ducks, what better night to get a couple points than against the Montreal team that just gave up 7 to St. Louis? So, they're going to play games against teams like Dallas or Toronto or, teams that are at the top, Vancouver, that are trying to gun for a playoff spot that aren't going to be giving up, cheap goals, where as 2 teams out of the playoffs, that's something to think about. So I love the over here. I'll probably take the first period over as well. It's not great value, but I could see a couple goals really quick in this game, so I don't want to run the risk of waiting for it live.
Yeah, exactly. I think I definitely prefer totals looks here than sides when it comes to this game. There are a couple props I like. If you look at Anaheim, I'm seeing usually with the up and down nature of their lineup. Right, it looks like McTavish is going to be good to go. There was even some talk McTavish might miss this game for Anaheim, but it looks like he's in. He's probably worth a look. Who's heating up for Anaheim? Ryan Strome. 3 goals in the last 3 games for Anaheim. He's probably worth a look. He's with Carlson and Adam Henrique on the top line. And my number one prop on the Montreal side of the equation is Juraj Slavkovsky. He is finally starting to roll. This number 1 overall pick. This kid is starting to figure it out. 4 goals in the last 4 games, 5-game point streak for Juraj Slavkovsky as well. Right now for this Canadiens team. Absolutely outstanding value right now with the props on him right now. And look, he's playing with good players too, and he's been now with Suzuki and Caulfield on that top line long enough that he's finally getting that chemistry rolling with them. Took long enough. Took a lot of time for it to finally get rolling, but it finally is right now for Juraj Slavkovsky. Right now for the Montreal Canadiens. Good to see it as well for him because long overdue for him to start looking like that number 1 overall pick. And he really is starting to percolate right now. All right, St. Louis Blues and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto minus 210, minus 220 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. I am so damn sick of hearing about the Morgan Riley hearing. I mean, my goodness, you would think we're waiting on the O.J. Simpson trial for crying out loud with all the fucking attention and scrutiny and discussion it's getting. Calm down, folks, please. Goodness gracious, I can't take it anymore listening to all the hubbub. It was bad what he did. It was good what he did. He should only get 1 game. He should get 6 games. He should get the book thrown at him. He should get no games. Maybe throw the damn book at my head, knock myself out so I don't have to hear about this crap till it goes past and gets and it finally gets over with. Holy mackerel. Can't take it. But finally, I think where this whole situation is going to come to an end sooner rather than later. He's supposed to have a virtual hearing today with the with the Department of Player Safety with the NHL offices. So we'll see how that plays out here with him. We know he's not going to play tonight, obviously, and he is going to get something, I'm sure. It's just a question of how many games it is. I mean, my goodness. It was like I said, I actually love how he responded. I love the response is what I love. I love that he sees the guy slap it into the empty net, slap shot, clapper, which was not necessary. And he says, not on our fucking watch are you going to do that to us. It was not necessary for Ridley Gregg to do that. And I like that he went after him. But, man, that's just not the way to go after him. Punch the guy. Grab him by the scruff of the neck and throw him down to the ice or something. That's the way you do it. You don't ram a stick up to the side of the head of the guy and cross-check him with it. That's the mistake that was made by Morgan Riley. The response was great. The emotion that he showed following that was a good thing. It's the way he responded that's the issue. I mean, you just can't do that with the stick upside the head like that. So that's the way I've stood on that incident right from the very beginning. I love that Morgan Riley responded and was angry and was pissed and showed some fucking emotion finally from that Leafs team. But what I did not like was, a cross check upside the head is just, that's too far. You can't do that. Punch him a few times, wail on him a little bit, throw him down to the ice, something, anything but that. And that's where Morgan Riley made the mistake. Right there. But as far as this game goes, look, he's not going to play. And, Toronto's really scrambling, Matt, on the blue line right now because, it's likely he's not playing tonight. So you got some shuffling going on back there. It looks like tonight you're going to have Brody Liljegren, Benoit McCabe, Giordano, William Lagesson is going to be back in on that blue line tonight. And by the way, Martin Jones has got, I don't know, a minor injury or an illness of some kind, so he's unavailable. Samsonov was going to start this game anyway for Toronto, but they've killed up the Hildebeest, Dennis Hildeby, to back up Ilya Samsonov tonight for this game. On the Blues side of the equation, man, don't tell this team they were left for dead weeks ago. They're not playing like it right now. My goodness, St. Louis, how about 7-1 in their last 8 games? 2-0 since the All-Star break. Now, granted, Buffalo and Montreal, it's not exactly, that's a Sisters of the Poor schedule right there, if I've ever seen one. But nevertheless, it was 2 good wins against teams you should beat. If you're serious about being a wild card team in the Western Conference, have to win a game like that, or 2 games like that. And St. Louis was able to. I'm not laying this price against St. Louis right now. Hell no, not a chance. And if you actually look at series history, Blues have been a thorn in Toronto's side repeatedly. In fact, St. Louis 7-3 in the last 10 meetings. And look at the ownage here in Toronto. Are you kidding me? They've won 5 straight here in the Big Smoke, in TO, the T-Dot, the 6. St. Louis has won 5 straight in Toronto, 5-0. Their last 5 trips to Toronto. They've won 2 of the last 3. And it's worth noting, too, these teams split last year. Both games went to overtime and or a shootout. Toronto won in St. Louis 5-4 last year. St. Louis won in Toronto 6-5 in a shootout last year. We've actually seen 5 straight overs head-to-head between these 2 teams, but I don't know if I'm going to bet the over small because of series history, but I don't love it, and here's why. Everything that I'm hearing from the Leafs after the Ottawa game is defense, defense, defense. We got to be better in our own end. We've got to clean this thing up. We cannot be giving up the chances and having the breakdowns in our own zone that we're having right now. I really think there's a serious attention to the defensive side tonight for the Leafs, and that's what worries me a little bit about this over. I'm betting it because of series history, but I don't love it. It's a small bet for me. What I do like here is the old dog and draw split. I'm going to take St. Louis +1. It's just too much of a price. They've done well in Toronto historically, and the draw as well. This is my first draw bet on the card because I think it's really got a shot. St. Louis doesn't care that the Leafs get points. The Blues don't care that the Leafs get points in this game. The Leafs don't care if the Blues get points in this game. They're in opposite conferences. We've seen both games last year between these 2 teams go beyond regulation. So St. Louis +180 and the draw, which I think you can get at around +350 right now in this game. Dog and draw split here. Blues and draw. A little bit on the over 6.5 here as well in this one. What do you think here, Matt? Blues, Leafs.
That's an interesting take on the draw. I especially given the fact that they're in different conferences. That's always something I think about. Who gives a shit if they get 1 point on the other end, not affecting us in the playoffs or anything like that. And I didn't.
Holy shit! I'm looking at the wrong book. I forgot to look at FanDuel, Matt, with the draw. FanDuel's got it at +400. Holy, that's a great price. Wow.
And they both went to overtime last year. So
both St. Louis, Toronto games last year. Yep. Went to overtime or a shootout. Yep.
Definitely worth a sprinkle. And I like the over. I know you're not completely sold on it. It's more series history, but I could see this being a 3-3 game. Toronto's starting to heat up offensively a little bit. Their big guns have scored in the last couple games, but they're going to give up a couple goals, no doubt. So, especially given how St. Louis has played, I would be shocked if this is like a 1-1 game going to overtime. I think it'll be more like a 3-3, 4-4 type game. I'm seeing on some books you can get 6 at like -140. If you're nervous about it, you can always take that instead of the 6.5. But I like the 6.5 here. Don't really like either side just from a value perspective. I mean, Toronto at home, not laying 220 on them. I could see St. Louis +180 being worth the value, especially if you're going to sprinkle it on the draw. Then hopefully you hit 1 and get your money back plus some. But yeah, I don't love either side in my opinion, but it's hard to bet against St. Louis +180 on you said 7 in a row, 7-1.
7-1 the last 8 games for St. Louis overall. Yep, and they've won 5 straight in Toronto.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean,
it's hard to not take. Okay.
yeah. It's hard to not take +180. Given how they're playing. But I do think Toronto will sort of rally around Riley in a sense.
I am worried about that a little bit. That the win one for the Gipper type of mindset takes hold here for the Leafs. He's getting suspended. He's getting, but they love what they saw from him and step up the first game without him. Although it's funny, Alan Stat. It's true. I remember when he was out last year, everyone thought, wow, what a huge hole that is on the blue line without Morgan Riley. And look at the record without him: 14-2-1. For the Leafs last year without Morgan Riley. I think some of that's a little random. Some of that's a little happenstance.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, Morgan Riley, we don't need that guy. He's an overrated defenseman. Sure. Of course not. And he's having his best season, I think, in years right now for the Leafs. But it's just an odd stat. I agree. It's an odd stat. It's not a sign of maybe things to come without him. I wouldn't say, 14-2-1 last year without Morgan Riley. They're going to rip off a bunch of wins for as long as he's suspended here for these next few games. I think you got to be careful if you fall into that mindset.
Yeah, and I think, it's looking like he's going to get, I'm seeing 5, 6. Do I think that's a little heavy? Sure. We don't have to get into all that, but, I think the hype of playing for him will fade if he does get 5 or 6 games. But
put it this way, Matt, if they show up tonight and they win, if they show up and they win tonight, Toronto, and it's win one for the Gipper, rally around this whole Riley suspension, and they play. And look, they're not happy about the way they played against Ottawa. You're going to get Toronto's effort tonight for sure, 100%. But we're betting prices here. We're betting numbers. We're not betting teams. And to me, I'm happy, win or lose, taking plus 180 with St. Louis. I am. And
sure.
And knowing their history in Toronto. Yep. And how good it's been. So there you go. But it's a fascinating game. Like the Leafs are like, if the St. Louis Blues win tonight, this is going to be a deal where they win because they capitalize on their chances and they were the better team. It's not going to be because I think they outwork or the effort's greater for St. Louis. Toronto's bringing it tonight. I have zero doubt about that. And that's the thing that worries me a little bit, but I'm not as worried when I'm taking a plus 180, at that kind of a price range with a team playing like St. Louis, who's won 5 straight in this building as well. There are some props I like here. Matthew Nyes, someone that's going to have to step up. He scored the other night and finally against Ottawa. You know what that's like. Talented kid playing with Matthews and Marner. He gets that goal, weight off his back, monkey off his back, whatever you want to call it. Now maybe he gets on a little bit of a hot streak there for the Leafs. So I think that's a solid look right there. And then for St. Louis, you got a lot of now St. Louis has a lot of these situations here where you got all these Canadian kids and Toronto kids coming back home, and they always want to play well. But Robert Thomas would want to play well. Kyrou will want to play well. Won't you be my neighbor? We're gonna we took him against Montreal the other night. Jake Neighbors, man, is he heating up again for the St. Louis Blues right now? No question about that. So definitely some good options there. Nyes on the Toronto side is probably my favorite. And then on St. Louis, Kyrou, Robert Thomas, and of course, Jake Neighbors, who has just been terrific lately. Again, he's really, he had a little bit of a cold streak briefly, but he's on the beam again for the St. Louis Blues of late. All right, Tampa Bay and Boston. Bruins minus 160 home favorites, 6 the total here in this game. I don't mind the Blues team total at that price, energized. It's not bad to look in that direction. Boston, I'm sure of it, Boston's showing up tonight. You don't have to tell Brad Marchand, David Pasternak, Charlie Coyle, DeBrusque, all those veterans on that team that they were absolute ass, that they were absolute shite on Saturday afternoon against the Washington Capitals, that they were absolutely atrocious, abysmal. It's not a matter of it wasn't just that they didn't play well against Washington. It's like they didn't even care to play that game. Like there was just zero effort, zero intensity. Zero care it felt to win and play an NHL hockey game on Saturday afternoon. That's what it looked like. That's how bad they were. They couldn't even string a damn tape-to-tape pass together at any point in that game on Saturday afternoon. That is how awful it was. Just nothing. And they could barely gain the red line. They could barely gain entry into the offensive zone against Washington on Saturday afternoon. So you got to think after a game that absolutely putrid that the Boston Bruins respond the right way here. And Tampa Bay still stinks on the road. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, they lose to the Rangers. They lose to the Islanders. They beat the Jackets. Okay, they beat the Jackets. Big whoop. Who cares? I mean, it's a game you should have won against Columbus. Boston does respond here, and I think they respond early. I like first period puck line here on Boston. And I don't like minus 160. I don't love that price. I don't want anything to do with that, but I will take Boston first period puck line minus a half plus 165. I like the first period over in this game. That's the one thing about Boston games lately. I mean, prior to the Washington game, that is, but we've seen some first period overs. This kind of has that feel to it. Remember when they looked so awful against Calgary last week at home, first game after the break? And then they had Vancouver rolling in, and we were hoping for a Boston response, and they came out and they jumped on Vancouver and led 2-0 in the first period. That's what this kind of feels like to me. They pounced, because I could see a 2-0 type of first period here for the Boston Bruins tonight in this game. Then maybe Tampa gets themselves back into the game gradually as it goes on, but I do think Boston comes out strong because they know they laid an absolute egg, an absolute freaking dud on Saturday afternoon of epic proportions against the Washington Capitals. So Bruins puck line, first period, minus a half, plus 165, and also first period over for me. Those two looks. I don't love the full game over as much. I don't. Because one thing we've seen from Boston, the Vancouver game, the Calgary game, the goals come early, they dry up later in the game. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Tampa Bay, Boston.
Yeah, I love the first period over as well. I think Boston's going to come out hot. I think that puck line's not a bad play. My little brother wanted me to mention that his best bet is actually the game over. Just given this, the last two games this season, there's been 10 goals and 9 goals scored in each of those games.
That would be Ryan Robinson, by the way, for those of you wondering. Yep.
Yeah, he texted me this morning. He actually texted me last night. It was at 6.5. I was like, I don't know if I love it at 6.5. Tampa's too wishy-washy on the road, but I could get behind it at that 6 price. As you mentioned, I think Boston comes out strong, maybe scores a couple early, maybe Tampa gets on the power play in the second. Next thing you know, it's 3-2. You've always got the empty net chance. Maybe someone scores in third, things like that. So don't particularly want to lay 160 in case that Boston's last game was a reflection of how they're going to play for a little bit. I don't think that's the case, but I just, I don't want to lay 160 knowing how bad they played this weekend. But I do think they come out strong. So I think the first period puck line's a great play. I'll definitely be on the first period over, and then I'll probably sprinkle the game over as well, since Ryan thinks it's best bet in the night.
Well, there you go. Ryan Robinson, best bet. And he's not even on the show today. Over over the 6 here. And there are 6s out there right now. Plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you shop around if you like the over, because there's 6 at multiple. This open 6.5 in most books, but we have seen some under money here. Like I say, I like the goals early. I definitely favor the first period over. I'd like that a lot more than I like the full game over in this game, and the Boston first period puck line as well. In this one, 7-2, by the way, for the Bruins. Their last 9 against the Lightning, 4 straight home wins in Boston for the Bruins over the Lightning as well. And like I say, after that Washington game, Jim Montgomery will not have to tell this team how much better they have to be tonight compared to the Washington game. They know that was just a complete and utter no-show for them against the Capitals on Saturday afternoon. So looking forward to that one. Prop-wise in that game, when you look at the Bruins right now, Heinen is not a bad look. Heinen's been noticeable lately there, Cuban, for the Bruins. So, I definitely don't mind that, no question. I'm looking toward Frederick probably tonight, because Frederick and Zacha more than anything on that second line for the Bruins. And then for Tampa Bay, if I'm going to look at one individual right now for them, probably would be Nick Paul, second line, with where he is in the lineup. Obviously, they're right now, a lot of the damage is being done by their top players, but Nick Paul does interest me at least a little bit here. All right, Seattle Kraken and the New York Islanders. Next up here, we've got the Islanders minus 160 home favorites in this game, 5.5 being the total here with the Kraken and the Islanders. Should be interesting to see how this one plays out. But I'll tell you what, right now, Matt, it's not the right time to be trusting Seattle at the moment. They're going through some struggles. They didn't play that great going into the All-Star break either. And coming out of the break, they've gone 0-2, losses to the Flyers and the Devils coming out of the break. Now you're on a back-to-back situation as well after the loss in New Jersey last night. So not an easy situation there. Now, the good news is, and John Massey has mentioned this many times, the Devils / Islanders / Rangers back-to-backs are not that taxing at all. So it's a little bit better situation here. But I have to only look Islanders here. Not at this price. I actually did bet them overnight when I believe the price still was below -150 briefly. Now I would look at a Islanders -1. Islanders, probably Islanders regulation and/or -1, depending on which one you prefer. And I would probably look at an Islanders team total over as well. In fact, I think if you're going to bet the Islanders now, the best value is that team total over for the Islanders. It's 3.5 at +130. It's a great price. And I know this is a team that we know sometimes at times can struggle to find the back of the net. But I definitely think tonight, with likely Philip Grubauer in net, hasn't been confirmed, but I'm sure it's going to be him. He'll finally return. It's back-to-back. They need to give Decor a rest. Ilya Sorokin, by the way, in net. And you've got the Islanders coming off kind of a dud of their own against Calgary in their last game on Saturday, where they didn't really play all that well Saturday afternoon against the Calgary Flames. And this is a team that needs to respond after a defeat because their playoff hopes are hanging by a thread right now. So they need to respond following that 5-2 loss to the Flames. They got a bit of a tired Seattle team rolling in here. If you're a little bit unsure of the 3.5, just like I mentioned yesterday with the Philadelphia team total, BetMGM has over 3 -145 for the New York Islanders team total. I think that's the one I'll bet because I want the security of the 3 with that team total for the New York Islanders. So Islanders over 3 for me, -145. Probably a smaller sprinkle on the -1 in the regulation as well. I just think it's a tough ask for Seattle. They're not playing great. Islanders need wins. Islanders were playing well before that Calgary game. Let's not forget they beat Toronto last week in a very impressive fashion. And then they won after that as well. They're against the I'm trying to think who they beat. Oh, yeah, I think it was Colorado. I think. I'm trying to remember. But, it was Tampa. Tampa 6-2 right after that. So they were playing well before Calgary upended them on Saturday. So, Islanders going to split small between -1 and reg and plus that over 3 team total on the Islanders tonight. What do you think here in this one, Matt? Seattle, New York Islanders.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it simple and just stick to the system play of over 5.5. I think Seattle's
any 5.5 you're betting over. That's right.
Yeah, and there's a few exceptions out there on occasion. I don't like betting it if Hellebuck's in net and there's a slow scoring team on the other end, things like that. But I think Seattle's going to try and bounce back. It's not really like a back-to-back that's deals with travel or anything like that. It's just probably taking the train or bus across town. So don't think that'll be a huge factor. If anything, it might help them that they're still on the East Coast. I know that first game of the East Coast road trip is always tough for Seattle, Vancouver, teams like that. I like the over here. I think the Islanders can score a few goals, especially if Grubauer is announced. If Decor is announced, then I get a little weary and maybe try and live it at 5. But as long as Grubauer's in, I'm just going to take the over here. I would lean towards the Islanders, but I don't think it's worth the -160. Seattle coming off a loss, maybe they bounce back. Don't want to risk it with that price, but definitely not going to bet on Seattle either, just given how they've been playing lately. So if Grubauer's in over 5.5, it's really the only bet I'll take in this game.
All right, good stuff there. All right, as Matt Barzal props too, I like. Go back to the well with him. I know Saturday was a tough day for him in the offense, but if the offense is going to do something right now, it looks like more than not, it's going to go through Barzal. He has played very well lately for the Islanders. All right, next up, we've got, this is always the part of the show Matt's waits for anxiously, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Dallas Stars. We've got the Stars -115, home favorites, 6.5 the total here in this game. This is a great game. I can't wait to watch this one. It's one of the better games on the slate, and I'm not just saying that to make Matt happy because he loves his Dallas Stars. This is legitimately a good game. Here with these two teams. Two very good teams. Carolina's got cup aspirations in the East. Dallas has cup aspirations in the West. There's no reason this shouldn't be a really good hockey game. And if we get the goaltending battle, I believe we are, and we are going to see it here. Pyotr Kochetkov and Jake Ottinger. These are two goalies that have the potential to be stalwarts in the NHL for the next 5 to 10 years. No question. So I'm excited to watch this matchup. You've got, obviously, by the way, an announcement today by Peter DeBoer. Evgeny Dodonov's going to be out for an extended period of time for the Dallas Stars lower body fracture. So indefinite absence for him. That's unfortunate. He was starting to heat up. I know he had a good game against, I think it was Toronto just recently. But yeah, he was starting to heat up. But, they've got enough offense with Matty Duchene and Mason Marchment and Wyatt Johnston, my guy, who, I'm betting the props again on WJ. Wyatt Johnston, there's no question. Go down the list, Hintz and, and Robertson and Ben and Sagan. I mean, there's more than enough offense to go around. And not only do you have Heiskanen now, but you got to respect Thomas Harley more and more the more you watch this guy continuing to especially pile up points. So goal and assist props right now for Thomas Harley. Definitely something to look at. So fascinating matchup here. You're right, Kevin. Great trend on Dallas, 9-1 to the over. I lean that way. I lean hard to the over here, but I also think this could be tight because both teams have that potential. Carolina has shown that propensity here the last couple of games to play a little bit tighter. And we know, I think that's ultimately the way they want to play. And I think the way they're now much more capable of playing with Pyotr Kochetkov in net as opposed to Antti Ranta or the other guy, the other old stiff that's not in there, Freddie Anderson, who's still on IR. So it's not a shoe-in for me that this game goes over the total. But I will say this, Dallas has been an over machine on home ice. There's no denying that. You look at every recent game for the Dallas Stars there in that arena. They've been going over that number. You actually look at series history with the Canes and the Stars, and we have seen the over cash in 4 of the last 6. The games in Dallas, there was a 4-3 overtime game a couple of years ago. There was a 4-1. There was actually a couple in Dallas have stayed under. The games in Carolina, the last 2 have gone over. So I don't know. I'm just, with the quality of these two tendies, and especially Ottinger's playing better now. He's had a couple of really nice appearances in a row. I think Kochetkov was very good against New Jersey. You can't ask for more. He shut him out. I'm going to tread lightly on this over. Maybe I sprinkle on it, but it's not something I'm saying, yeah, we really love this. It's one of my favorite bets on the card. That is not the case. What I do like even more than maybe a small little sprinkle on the over is the draw. I think this has overtime, screaming overtime potential with these two teams. A good, competitive, close, tight game. Definitely one of my favorite draw bets. This is right up there with St. Louis, Toronto, one of my favorite draw bets tonight. Hurricanes and Stars draw for me. What do you think here, Maddie? Dallas Stars, your team taking on Carolina.
Yeah, obviously the over's been trending. I'll definitely be sprinkling the game total over at 6.5 and also the first period over. But I completely agree. I think this has playoff hockey written all over it. This is two teams that have cup aspirations, think that they've got what it takes. Two goalies that have been playing well, especially as of late with Ottinger. He was a little shaky for most of the year, but seems like the All-Star game might have given him that boost of confidence to get back to, where he potentially should be. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna take a little Stars money line just because they're at home and it's almost a pick 'em here. But I think this is gonna be a tight game. So I wouldn't hate a little 4-3 overtime win for Dallas. I saw in the chat somebody mentioned Pavelski is due for a goal. I think that's a pretty good prop to take. I don't know. I haven't seen the lineups, but I know that they're kind of putting him back and forth with that with Hintz and Robertson. If he's back on the top line, I think that's a great prop to take because he's been getting beat up. He's been getting his chances. I think he's due to pocket one tonight. So definitely something to look at. But yeah, I think, I know I'm biased and it's always Dallas. I'm always on the money lines or, there's going to be a ton of goals or whatever. But I do think, just looking at the slate, this is one of the better games of the night. So definitely will be tuned in and hoping for some goals, but I think it's going to be tight. So we'll see if it's a slow start, maybe you can jump in at 5.5. But if there's a couple goals early, it's going to probably be a 5-4 type game. So I think the first 5 minutes will really show, what type of game it's going to be.
I swear, it's like there's some kind of fucking, what is that in the Jetsons? All of a sudden there's that beam and it's all of a sudden attracts George Jetson or the kid Jetson to a certain planet or a certain place, that old cartoon. It's like that with Matt Robinson with the Stars games and I think Landon as well, who's a big, of course, Dallas Stars fan. I think it's just, look, obviously it's just coincidence that he popped in the chat at this time, but howdy Ice Familia just joins the chat right as we're talking about his Dallas Stars as well. How about that for timing right there?
Yeah.
It's almost like it's the Spidey sense. That's what I'm thinking, the Spidey sense, and it gets people's radar. And, they're talking about Dallas. Better get on this, better check out the show and get in that chat.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's up to Lando? He's always on the Bedcast with us, repping the Dallas Stars. So, but yeah, I tend to do the same thing when I'm not on the show, but you guys are talking about Dallas, and it's generally because I'll have the show playing like through my speaker, and I'll be doing stuff around the house, and then I hear the Dallas come up, and I'm like, gotta throw in my bets, gotta let them know what I'm thinking. So, definitely see it happen quite a bit.
Yeah, John, I'm feeling they could go under, even though, I feel this game like it could. The goaltending number, like they just look like they're getting better goaltending with Kochetkov. Not a shock, obviously, compared to Ronta or Anderson, and of course Ottinger. Look, he kind of up and down all year, but last few games I've seen Ottinger, he's looked the part again. Of the Jake we think could be an absolute beast come playoff time for this Dallas Stars team. No question about that. Yeah, definitely. Of course, Lando. Just a coincidence. I know. Of course. I'm being funny. I'm joking when I say you tuned in just because we're talking Dallas. All right, next up, New Jersey and Nashville. Nashville minus 130, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. I mean, big time situational advantage for Nashville here. Rested team, staying at home. New Jersey on a back-to-back here after a win against Seattle last night. So big time advantage for the Preds as far as that's concerned. Vitek Vanacek should be in net tonight on the back-to-back because we saw Nico Dawes play well last night. So probably back to double V in net for the Devils tonight. Should be Saros for Nashville. That last game for Nashville turned into quite the wild one for them against the Arizona Coyotes over the weekend. A wild back and forth game. They fell behind twice in that game, Nashville, but rallied back to win in overtime by a score of 5-4. We'll see if that can carry over here to this game as they fed off a big comeback effort against the Coyotes. Like I said, now back-to-back for this Devils team. The last time they did this, by the way, back-to-back, January 19th and 20th, they won the front end of the back-to-back, but they lost the second half of that back-to-back. So, yeah, I would only lean Nashville here, but I don't really love always going minus 130, taking Nashville as a favorite. I do. This is another draw, though, that I do like. Devils and Predators. I think because, again, we got East versus West. Neither team is that concerned that the other is going to get points in this game. And, again, we've seen overtime or a shootout in 5 of the last 9 head-to-head meetings between the Devils and the Predators. And Nashville's gone to overtime in 2 of their last 3 games. So, very simple for me. Nothing but the draw here with this one, Devils and Predators. Matt, what do you think here? Devils, Preds.
Yeah, it looks like last matchup they had was 6-4. Obviously, some scoring power. With Vanacek in and Hughes back from injury, I lean over here, but I think it could tighten up towards the end of the game. So I think I'm going to go first period over on this one. New Jersey obviously making the trip in. Maybe there's some sloppy play early. They obviously haven't been as good defensively with Vanacek and net as like they were last night. 5 straight losses on the back-to-back. Wow. Yeah, I mean,
I knew it wasn't good. I know the last one they lost, so I knew it wasn't good. I didn't know it was 5 straight on the back-to-back. Good stat, good info there, Kevin.
Yeah, and I mean, I would lean Nashville as well. Maybe you take them in regulation if you feel pretty confident. If you're not going with the draw, obviously you don't want to contradict your bets, but I could see it being a draw game. I could see it being like 2-2 at the end of the game. So yeah, I'm gonna keep it pretty basic and just maybe take that first period over. Hope to see Nashville come out hard, being at home, and then maybe New Jersey gives up 2. Maybe they fight back and score one late. I think it's. I think I was looking at both PKs are pretty bad. So if you get a couple power plays in that first period, I think it's very likely you get 2 goals. So that'll probably be my only play here. If you like the draw, obviously take the draw. But if you like a side, I would take Nashville in regulation, get a little better odds.
Yeah. Given those back-to-back numbers for New Jersey, I'm not on it. I don't want New Jersey tonight. It would be Predators or nothing. But Predators are a weird team to me. It seems like I don't back them a lot, Matt, but it seems like when I do, that's the time they don't show up. That's the time they shit the bed. So I don't really want to be dealing with that too much. As far as props, Tommy Novak's eaten up again for Nashville. 4 points in the last 3 games, including a goal for them. As far as New Jersey goes, I would say Dawson Mercer. He just continues to find ways to make an impact. Palat's still on the top line. If that's the case, I'd maybe look in that direction as well for the Devils. But those are a couple of the props that pique my interest there. All right, we're down to 2 games left for this monster Tuesday night slate. Vancouver and Chicago. We've got the Canucks minus 290. Road favorites here in the Windy City, 5.5 the total. I don't utter this word very much on this show, but I'm going to utter it here. Pass. Nothing for me. Honestly, nothing. Nothing for me on this game. How I feel about this Vancouver team. I think they're legit. I think they're going to be a factor in the Western Conference. They're a legit Stanley Cup contender right now. But right now, when I look at this game here tonight, Canucks Blackhawks, it's with this road trips grinding on. They've played a lot of games now. Detroit, Washington on the back-to-back on the weekend. Now you're playing Chicago tonight, and all Chicago does is work their fucking bag off every single night, even though they can't put a puck in the ocean right now as a hockey team. They definitely have a strong defensive-minded work ethic night in and night out for Luke Richardson, and it keeps them in games. But it's one of those deals where this is not a spot I'm interested in Vancouver, laying this kind of a number as this road trip grinds on. And I believe for Vancouver, they finally go home after this. And look, the last time they played here in Chicago, back in December, 4-3 for Vancouver. They had to work for it, against this Chicago Blackhawks team. And then Vancouver beat Chicago 2-0 back at home in Vancouver a couple weeks ago. Again, with this Blackhawks team, they have the major rest advantage, 3 days off since they lost in overtime to the New York Rangers. I could see some people maybe interested in a draw here. I could see it. We did see Washington took Vancouver to overtime on Super Bowl Sunday. So maybe that's potential. So if I were to throw out something here that maybe I could recommend, I don't know if I'll bet it, but slight lean to the draw. Nothing really other than that. There is a prop I like for this game, though, and I'll mention it in a few moments. So actually, I'm not totally passing, but I'm passing on the side and total is what I mean, just to be specific. What do you think here, Matt? Vancouver, Chicago?
Yeah, there's just not really any value in this game, at least on the start, on either the sides or the total. Maybe you take the total here and hope that Chicago can score a couple goals, but I just am not that confident in that at this time. I think, if anything, if you want a little value played, maybe you take Chicago money line here and hope they get it done. They're still NHL players. They're still going to win some games between now and the end of the season. How often it happens is probably not too often, but yeah, I think if anything, you play that. It's not worth taking Vancouver even on the puck line spread, because then if there's a late goal, you lose, and it's not even plus money. So I'll probably stay off this game completely. Maybe if you're feeling it right before puck drop, you take the first period over. Hope there's a couple quick ones. Maybe Vancouver comes out hot. But yeah, overall, don't really like anything in this game.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. There are a couple props, though. If you're going to bet anyone for Chicago, you're going to bet Nick Foligno and or Dick. Jason Dickinson, of course, is who I'm talking about. I mean, those are the ones that are really two of the only ones that are scoring right now for the Chicago Blackhawks. And on the flip side for Vancouver, look, if you are a Patreon member, and you damn well should be, it's only $10 per month. You get all, and we'll talk about it more later in the show, and we promo Patreon as we always do. But if you are a Patreon member, on Super Bowl Sunday, when I posted the card, you would have at least seen that I was on a bargain bin special for that Sunday slate that ended up cashing. Nils Höglander. And here he is starting to heat up again for the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm going back to the well with Mr. Höglander tonight, plus 460 at Patano. Suter, who Cuban mentioned in the chat, around plus 300 is worth a look, I think, too. as well in this game. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you parlay Jason Dickinson. That's a good one, Alan. And Niels Hoglander, you got the Dick and Hog parlay. That's a good one, Alan. They'll have to, Jason Dickinson and Niels Hoglander, the Dick and Hog parlay right there. If you put those two together to score a goal tonight, that's a good one there. But yeah, definitely Niels Hoglander. We're going to go back to that well for sure. There we go. Hashtag hog dick. There we go. As Matt puts in our chat. Yeah, we'll get that trending on Twitter X with that. That's pretty good, Alan. Bravo. Well done. You're working overtime coming up with that one. All right, next up, final game of this Tuesday card. Pretty good game too. I'm interested. I'm intrigued by this because the Edmonton Oilers are red hot. What are they? 17-2, although they're coming off that loss to LA, playing the Kings' first game with the coaching change. But still 17-2 in their last 19 games. And now they return home from their road trip to face the surging Detroit Red Wings. We've got Edmonton minus 220 home favorites in this game, and the total currently sitting at 6.5, shaded to the over in this game. I like both teams to score first period in this game. I definitely think that's a good look. Lean to the first period over. And look, for the longest time, the Edmonton Oilers have been this defensive stalwart, this under machine, which is now what? 9-1 to the under for the Oilers in their last 10 games. The one over was that Anaheim game, 5-3 on Friday night. I get that. But I think there's going to be some defensive regression for Edmonton at some point. At some point, you're going to see. You're not going to give up 2 goals or less every damn game. It's just not going to happen. And suddenly we see Anaheim scores 3 against them. They give up more than the 2 they've been usually giving up. They give up 4, obviously, in the loss to the LA Kings on Saturday night. You know, there's going to be some 3 goals to, although one of them was an empty netter when the streak got snapped. You know, you're going to see some leveling off defensively. They're not the 90s Devils that, you know, they're going to play this shutdown defense every single night against every team they play. They're definitely improved defensively compared to early in the season, no question. But they're not going to keep every team they play 2 goals or less. It's just not going to happen. And you look at Detroit here, 3 of their last 4 they've won. They've won their first game back from the All-Star break against a very good Vancouver team, came back from a 3-1 deficit in the third period to tie it and then win it in overtime on a Jake Wallman penalty shot. He did busted out the gritty again, by the way, with the Selly for that overtime goal the other night in that 4-3 win against Vancouver. I think Detroit can push Edmonton and test them defensively because this is a team that can score. I mean, they're fully healthy other than Fabry, who's out. But other than that, they got everyone back. Kane's back, DeBrincat, Perron, Raymond, Comfort, Larkin, Sprong, and some of these depth forwards like Veleno we've talked about. They're all starting to chip in a little bit right here for Detroit. On the flip side, you know, we've got Skinner in net for Edmonton. He continues to be very good. It could have been a lot worse than 4-0 against the Kings if not for Skinner in that game. But he's even going to, you know, regress slightly too, in my opinion, right along with the defense. You're not going to keep up the clip Stuart Skinner's been rocking with lately. Alex Lyon projected in net for Detroit, but not confirmed. As far as this game goes, I'm going to go with first period over, full game over, and a little both teams to score in the first period as well. I think this is a game where we start to get back a little bit more to the Oilers of old, for one night anyway, that we see some goals, we see some pace, we see some offense. I like first period, full game over, first period, both teams to score. I'm going to sprinkle on the draw, and I'm going to take a shot with Detroit in this spot. It's just kind of like with St. Louis. I mean, it's too rich of a price right now with the way the Red Wings are playing at this moment. Not to mention, look, Edmonton now, there's 2 losses in their last 3. You know, 17-2, it's still great, but now there's a little bit of that, you know what, we are human again, after all. You know, if you're the Edmonton Oilers going into this matchup. Not to mention Detroit beat them last year in Edmonton 5-4 in a shootout when these teams played. So there's a lot I like here. First period over, full game over, both teams to score first period, draw, and Detroit plus 180 as well in this one with the Red Wings and the Oilers. And there's some props I like too, which I'll get to in a moment. What do you think here about this one, Maddie? Detroit, Edmonton.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you across the board. I lean Detroit here, especially at that value. Edmonton coming home. I think they're just home for one game and then back on the road. So they're not comfortable at home or anything like that. And it is their first game back, as Jason Demers mentioned. I'm not positive how long the road trip was. I'm sure it wasn't 4 games plus, just given the All-Star break. But
no, only
you know,
3 games. This one. There's a
3 games.
long-term angle and trend that's filtering its way through social media. It's named after the late great, and he was truly great. He is truly great, and one of the true people that I respected when I first started in this business. And he passed away a few years ago, way too soon. Dave Malinsky, a legend in sports betting, legend, and his analysis and his insight. That people wonder, Ian, how are you so insightful? How are you so informative? How do you come up with such you pack your shows with so much information? Well, I listened to Dave Malinsky growing up. That's why. And he was just so thought provoking, and just he would give you so many different ways to think about placing a wager. And that's why I'm trying to. And I've taken that approach with every show I do. I try to arm every viewer and listener with as much information as they can possibly have before they make a wager. And that's kind of what I try to pattern myself off of. And one of the things that's been termed is the Dave Malinsky special, the Malinsky special, where teams that coming home after a 4-game road trip or more are usually a bet against. And the long-term results for betting against a home team off a 4-game road trip or longer, it's usually very good. NHL and NBA in particular is where this works pretty well. Unfortunately for Edmonton tonight, it was only a 3-game road trip that they had. But still, it's a tricky spot.
Gotcha.
You have the 3-game West Coast trip, and then you have the 1-game home. And you're right, Matt. They're going back on the road for 3 after this against St. Louis, Dallas, and Arizona. So this is a bit of a weird scheduling spot. I agree, for Edmonton.
Yeah, and so I mean, again, if the value wasn't there, I think this could go either way, but I just think at plus 180, it's worth at least throwing a bit on Detroit. I do think it's going to be a fast-paced game. I think there will be goals early and often, so I'm also going to jump on the first period over and game over. I could definitely see both teams to score, but yeah, I pretty much align with everything you mentioned. Probably won't go draw here. I just think it'll either be Edmonton comes out strong and plays well and wins, 5-2 type game, or I think Detroit just rolls them and it's, same sort of thing the other way. I don't imagine it being too tight, but I mean, with both teams being able to score offensively, you never know. It could be a 3-3, 4-4 type game. So I'll probably stay off the draw, but I'm on Detroit first period over and game total over.
All right, there we go. Now, as far as props go for this game, like I say, on the Detroit side, I'm probably a little bit interested here in Comfer. Comfer started to really percolate a little bit lately here for the Red Wings as well. Perron, Perron for sure. Perron has really started to get things rolling certainly from a point standpoint. Not as many goals, but certainly has been consistent with points. Lucas Raymond, he has 8 points in the last 6 games for Detroit, and he scored against Vancouver. And this is a bit of a streaky guy. Could see Lucas Raymond maybe getting on a bit of a run. For Edmonton, I'm never going to recommend Nuge and McDavid and Hyman and Kane. Kane's probably worth a look right now because he is on fire for the Oilers, but anyone from that second line, Kane, Draisaitl, and I think tonight could be the night Perry finally scores. Perry is shooting the puck a lot. He's getting chances. It's everything but go in for him so far as being a member of the Oilers in his first 4 games with them. It's been everything but, score a goal for Corey Perry so far. I think he could turn into Scory Perry tonight and finally get his first as an Oiler here in this game tonight, and you can get upwards of plus 410 here in this game with Corey Perry. So I think tonight could be the night that he finally gets his first goal with the Edmonton Oilers. And then I'll always recommend, McLeod and Fogle, those 2 guys, because we know they're capable of scoring a goal any night for Edmonton as well. So those are the props I'm eyeing as far as this Red Wings-Oilers game. Great stuff. What a show. What a card. Looking forward to it here, these 11 games on this Tuesday night. 253 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. Sign up at patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Sides, totals, and player props posted there daily. goalie charts, totals charts as well. And we have another Ice Guys exclusive live bet cast coming up. I'm not going to give up the date away, but it's this week. There's a first of 2 Patreon exclusive bet casts in the month of February is coming up later this week. All right. So if you want to watch the bet cast coming up for Patreon members only and also participate in it, the only way you can is becoming a Patreon member. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And again, your subscription goes a long way to making sure this show goes for a very long time to come. So patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. And make sure you check out the Ice Guys store, of course, as well, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Yep. But one of the more gut-wrenching days of my life, honestly. And I had only briefly spoken and met Dave once, and that was at a super contest weekend event at the Westgate like a decade ago. And that was the only interaction I've ever had with Dave, but I heard him on the radio constantly, TV, all kinds of betting spots he would do. It was a very hard day for me when he passed away. And I know it was a hard day for everyone when that happened. We will move along and get to best bets, bargain bin special of the night as well. Both of those coming up right after we hear from our daily sponsor of the Ice Guys show, as always, our good friends at Boston. All right, Boston and Pink, make sure you check them out and use promo code ICEGUYS to get any of their quality products for 20% off using promo code ICEGUYS over at bostonhempinc.com. All right, it is time for Bargain Bin Special of the night. Matt, we got a lot to choose from, 11 games. What have you landed on for Bargain Bin Special tonight?
Yeah, so my bargain bin, I'm taking a couple signs, Boston Hemp being one of them. You'll get the joke here in a second. I am taking it to Dallas at the AAC, but I'm going a little different than what some may suspect. I'm going Stephen Nason anytime goal, and I got in at plus 420, which Boston Hemp on the show, 420. Everyone knows the connection. It was assigned to me, so Stephen Nason anytime goal at home. I've got a couple buddies that will be there on his behalf, so I'm sure he wants to score for some of the boys back from Dallas, and I think. Very likely he pockets one tonight.
There you go. Stephen Nason. And Matt's told me before, it's almost like a kismet or just, it's meant to be that he scores a goal anytime his Carolina team's playing when Matt's on the show. So we'll see if that continues tonight with Stephen Nason plus 420 for the Carolina Hurricanes for his bargain bin special of the night. There's a lot of decent choices here for me for tonight. Matthew Nyes I was tempted by for Toronto after getting off the schneid the other night. That was a real strong consideration for me as far as bargain bin special for this slate. But I'm going to, and Hoglander I had the other day. I don't want to use him again. I think tonight's the night for Corey Perry. I'm going to go with him. He's had a boatload of chance. If you've been watching Edmonton, he's been all over the net, all over the front of the net without actually scoring. He's had chances. He's had shots on goal. He's had high danger looks, and the puck has just not yet gone in for Corey Perry. I think tonight could be that night against Detroit to get his first goal with the Edmonton Oilers. The price is right, plus 410, Corey Perry and Edmonton Oilers for my bargain bin special of the night for this Tuesday card. All right, best bets. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it pretty consistent. It's been pretty good luck for me in the past. I think it's one of the best games of the night, so I think a lot of people will be tuning in. I think it may get tight as the game goes on, but I'm going to take the Stars Carolina first period over. Traditionally, even when Ottinger's in and playing well, the Stars are not immune to giving up a quick goal. But I think they're also going to try and score one early coming back from the road trip. They got 2 of 3. Probably would have liked to not give up those 2 quick ones in Toronto, but I think it's going to be a big game. I think they know it's at stake, and they're going to try, and both teams are going to try and play well. So first period over in the Stars Carolina game at the AAC. That's my best bet.
There we go. Carolina Dallas, first period over for Matt Robinson, his best bet here for this Tuesday NHL card. Again, you get a pretty good price with that. My best bet for this card, this tells you I'm not biased. I don't bet with my heart. To hell with that. We're here to try to profit. Give me the LA Kings tonight, minus 135 against Buffalo. This team is, I think, poised for a little bit of a run here after the coaching change. Buffalo is, again, scuffling, battling injury. LA lost at home to Buffalo. There's an axe to grind. Nobody's scared of playing in Buffalo these days with the crowd or lack thereof. LA starts this road trip focused, and it's not one of these deals where they're let down after an Edmonton win. No, I think that actually fuels a little bit of a run here for this Kings team. I love the way they played against Edmonton. Let's go with the Kings. The price is cheap enough for me. Los Angeles Kings minus 135 against the Buffalo Sabres for my best bet here for this Tuesday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Matt Robinson, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck, and we will be back with you tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.